This week on the Salesforce Admins podcast, we're talking to Megan Tuano about navigating career transitions in tech, the power of AI, and making your mark in the Salesforce ecosystem. Now, Megan is a senior business analyst, team leader, and let me tell you, a prolific YouTube content creator with a knack for turning really complex concepts into engaging lessons. But before we dive into this insightful conversation, make sure you're following the Salesforce Admins podcast on your favorite platform. I don't know which one that is, but I bet you have yours. So, and if you do that, you're never going to miss an episode because it's just going to show up every Thursday morning. All right, enough of the promo. Let's get to our conversation with Megan. So, Megan, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Well, I came across your YouTube channel. We did a military, what was the official name of that? Was it a happy hour that we did?
It was the Military Trailblazer office hours.
Office hours. I keep calling everything happy hour. Maybe it's wishful thinking.
It was happy.
It was happy hours, office hours. But it was fun doing that with you. Jennifer Lee was on. There's quite a few people on. Warren Walters, former podcast host. It was like a roundup. And I was like, wait a minute. Megan hasn't been on the podcast. So it's not a true family reunion vet force happy hour unless I had Megan on the podcast. So I had to have you on the podcast to talk about career and life, your YouTube channel, and all of AI and Agentforce that's coming in everywhere in the Salesforce ecosystem. So let's get started there. How did you get started in the Salesforce world?
Yeah, so taking me back. So basically, I was actually working for UC Berkeley at the time. I was an admissions counselor / career counselor. I was helping a lot of students at the time really figure out if they wanted to start the data science program that I was a part of. And this is when data science was really hot. This was the time where a lot of students that were trying to figure out, I love data, I love storytelling, but how do I take my non-technical background and actually apply it into the tech world? Because a lot of the times I would speak to students and they were kind of scared about breaking into the tech because they didn't come from that, like, quote unquote, traditional tech background. But when data science emerged, it was a challenge for me, but also them to figure out where can we put this person who may have been like an architect I worked with that designed the 9/11 memorial, or I was working with the 60-year-old that developed the police camera. So these really cool people with non-technical backgrounds, I was figuring out how to get them to the data science space. So with working with UC Berkeley at that time, with the admissions counselor title that I had, we were actually using Salesforce at the time. And it was totally new to me. I was like, this is a great way to be able to track my students. Once they submit that they're interested in the program, they would come to me, we would funnel them, get them through the essentially, I say sales process because that's kind of what it was. We're kind of getting them to enroll in the program. But that was my first real introduction to Salesforce. And I loved it. I was kind of like that admissions counselor that was making all these data charts like, hey, wait, my student said that this could be better on the page. Let's take this to the marketing team. Or they said that this course could be beneficial for their career. Let's take it to the professors. And I would get all these reports together and I was kind of like, okay, well, what else can I do? And I was very fortunate because at the time, my uncle actually worked at Capgemini. And he was probably in the ecosystem for about 15 years at that time. But he was like, look, you're working with Salesforce. Did you know you could get certified? I was like, no way, stop. I said, stop. I did not know that. I was just trying to figure out a way to break into tech myself because of working with my students. I was like, this is super inspirational. They're doing things that I never imagined. So the same fear that they had about breaking into tech, I had that too. And I didn't come from a background that was computer science or technical. My background was international affairs. I wanted to travel the world and figure out something. But yeah, no, I got certified. Took about 1.5 years between early mornings, late nights, and finally broke in. It was a challenge, but it was very, very worth it now looking back.
It's crazy. I was literally just looking at the Trailblazer community today, and I saw a few people asking questions like they were a new developer, they were a new admin, and they really wanted to get in Salesforce and what should they learn. I find, and then I hear you say, well, I don't have this tech background. I wonder why tech has this kind of, I don't know, ominous sort of theory or aura around it of, well, if you're not in tech, you're not getting in tech. But yet you look around, and I mean, before we started recording, we were talking about YouTube and some of the easy click to configure. I mean, ChatGPT and some of the AI stuff, it couldn't be any easier. You literally just ask it a question. But the perception, that's the word I was looking for, the perception of getting into tech is still like this mountain that you have to climb.
I think it really is. And I think it kind of going back to UC Berkeley, I was just invited to speak with some of the students. And I would probably say they're about 19, 18, 20 years old. And a lot of them are coming from their undergrads where it's like sociology or, again, like mirroring business. And I think a lot of them, especially being in the Silicon Valley area, they oftentimes look at companies that are like the FANG companies. You have Google, Meta, all these companies. And what like usually what they're being fed is YouTube videos. Like, what do you work for? What are your job titles? And you'll hear a lot of engineers, developers, coding. And I think that gets ingrained in a lot of people's mind when they're not surrounded by the different positions that you can have. And that was one of the goals that I had when speaking to the students. Is like, look, I do not code. Right. I can dabble, but not code. And it was just about opening their eyes to, you can be a business analyst, you can be a product manager, you can be product owner, project manager. There's so many cool things that you can do in the ecosystem within the Salesforce world and really expand yourself out there. I think it's just about knowing the differences and roles and the possibilities. And it's like listening to podcasts like this where you can really discover things and kind of put your foot into finding, maybe I want to do a PM job or a BA role and just kind of trying it out. I've done probably 3 different roles in the 5 years of Salesforce that I've been in here. And without dabbling, I couldn't have found that. But without podcasts like this, I don't even know if I would have been able to go into the BA role. So I've definitely seen what you're talking about.
Yeah. What, I'm looking at your site and it's like launching my small business and a week in the life of Salesforce consultant. I'm curious, some of that, well, one of the videos was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we really didn't have much AI in our world. Mm-hmm. I mean, we thought we did. Like, let's be honest, even Salesforce had Einstein, but it was more, it wasn't a conversational UI. It wasn't a learning model. It was a predictive model. Mm-hmm. And just to be nerdy, like there's differences between the two of those to say in my nerdy voice, right? Because like, and I've had people that have had to tell me the difference. Like, I don't understand the difference. Like, well, one kind of predicts the future based on the data you've given it. And the other is learning and mm-hmm. giving you an outcome. How has your day-to-day as a consultant and with some of the businesses you've worked with changed now that you have AI in it?
It's fantastic. Well, I actually used to be an expert offer for Salesforce Ben for about 2 years. And a lot of it was helping new consultants and new people in the tech space on how to use AI. Mm-hmm. One of the first articles I did was based off a scenario where I was given a task as a consultant. And I have found that while using AI, I can kind of bounce ideas or conversations that I've had with my clients. Let's say they give us a survey and they want to have like a rating system through there and they want to have automations if the survey comes out as not so well and maybe the agent could have improved. Well, that's great. But I think that AI and using things like ChatGPT and giving them the prompts and the scenarios and continuing to build off that has really elevated my thinking skills, but also helped me prompt to ask better questions, but also take all of the stuff that I applied on ChatGPT and take that back to the client. So now not only do I look like more creative, but I have more like suggestions and solutions, and you can see them really get excited, like sometimes I'm limited to my experiences and my consulting jobs and stuff that I've had. But ChatGPT just kind of opens up, an AI opens up a different world where it's like it's taken prompts from every other consultant, let's say, that's asked the same thing. And now it's spitting back different scenarios where I can kind of take my client through. Like maybe I didn't think about, well, what happens to the ratings in the survey that are, conducted as well surveys? Like, what do you want to do? How do you want to reward the agent? Because I think that's really important. And you can tell that the customer gets so happy. They're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Well, no problem. ChatGPT got you. So it's been a huge, 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 huge game changer, not just within my job, but content all over.
Yeah, I mean, same. Also, I feel like somebody the other day said, well, you need to treat it kind of like if you had an intern. I was like, no, don't say that, because I will ask it too many questions that are like, I don't know where you're going with this, Mike. Well, I'm just asking just to see if you knew. But, thinking through as an admin, looking at getting started as a career, I know I was always asked, like, what's the most important thing that I could learn as a Salesforce admin, or what's the first thing I should learn? And, you think of the large ecosystem of what's available to learn. And there's a lot of different ways that you can learn the platform. But, to put your hat on, if you were getting started as a Salesforce admin today, where would you get started in terms of not where to learn, but in terms of what to learn?
That's a really great question. And I think I had an advantage because I was working with the platform as an end user. Mm-hmm. So I understood where to start, and I had help, especially with my family member at the time. And especially being a part of Salesforce Military, like they have a very set up, structured path for you to learn. But being a content creator, I oftentimes hear like, hey, I saw your video. I really want to start Salesforce. Like, where do I start? And I think there's so much out there, whether it just be Salesforce material. If you're a developer, what coding material do I need to use? There's so much. This ecosystem of tech in general is so big. But if I was to start right now, I would start with the basic functionality, because you need to understand how to use Salesforce. You need to understand, where's this? What's this do? Where's that? And then once you understand, I would combine it, be very structured about your journey. I know it's very tempting sometimes to kind of grab onto this or that, because everything's being pushed out at such a fast pace. But really AI, I think, whether you want to be a consultant, a BA, a developer, being able to keep up with the trends of today, and you don't need to overwhelm yourself, of course, but just know what's going on. How do you use AI? And I think Salesforce has the Associate Salesforce AI Cert, which doesn't dive too deep, but it really covers the basics of what is AI, what can I do, and then it navigates you to ChatGPT. And then there's fantastic articles where you can go on and kind of, like the article that I mentioned earlier from Salesforce Spend, how to be able to use chat to prompt it better. And you kind of elevate yourself through that way. So I would definitely start with the functionality, make sure you got that, and then complement it with AI, because these are skills that you're going to need to have when you go for that first job, when you're in that first job, because you need to be able to talk with your stakeholders, talk with your team. And then on top of it, just put that cherry on top, if you have great ideas, you can also kind of use AI to say like, hey, I thought about this for my team. What do you think about XYZ? And then it can prompt you with better ideas for you to be a great team player. So I definitely think the basics, AI, and then kind of follow with, Sales and Service Cloud, because those are going to complement many of the other clouds that you have.
Yeah, it's interesting you said start with the platform first, because for some of us, we don't even see a platform. It's just Salesforce. And I know I have members on my team that are the exact opposite. They don't even see Salesforce. They just see a platform. And to walk through different scenarios of problem solving, some of us hit limitations faster than others. And that can be kind of interesting just based on your perspective and your lens. And then you add in that layer of Agentforce and AI, and it's like, okay, well, what questions are we going to ask it? Well, what are the answers, and where are they to begin with? You have to think of, if I don't know the platform in Sales Cloud, if I start asking questions and build an agent, I better know where it's going to grab those answers from.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's ever-changing world. Speaking of content creator, I'm sure you do a lot of presentations and crafting stuff together. So do admins, when you're getting ready or you're putting together a demo or a presentation, what is some advice that you have that maybe as somebody that's done it for a while, or even, a beginning Salesforce admin at a company, some best practices to kind of help them, demo their new app or talk about something in front of a large group of people?
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, if you're new to tech, it can be kind of scary or exciting, like a mix of emotions, really. Because you really, just to go off the example of showing off an app, like you really put a lot of effort into this, and you really want the users to be able to like it. But it's going to be a little daunting sometimes. You're talking to heads of departments. And I would say I've totally been there. Kind of still do get a little nervous, right? Because you put all this time into something and you really want the people to like it and the users to benefit from it. So I think the number one suggestion that I would have is think about the user at the end of the day. Because no matter if you sit with the business executives, like they do know their client, but at the end of it, you have the same end game. It's for your user. And if you go in there confidently focusing on, hey, I thought about this business process, which could expedite the agents and how they're working, overall customer satisfaction, increase efficiency with the agents, like these things that are helping at the end game. I think if you go in with that thought first, then your heart's in the right spot and everything else can follow. Now, in terms of like presentation, I would definitely say, this is your time to work with a peer. It's time to bounce ideas off of with your coworkers. Does this sound good? Am I making my point clear? Because sometimes if we read our own article, and I'm guilty of this, I'll read my article. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I'll pass it off to somebody else, and they're like, what did you mean here? So just passing it to somebody for peer review is definitely always helpful. And then I would say maybe the last thing is a lot of visuals. One thing as a content creator and as a business analyst now is we all sit through meetings. We all have that Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Things can get overwhelming. There's a lot of text. And one thing that's helped me as a content creator is just making learning fun, making it understandable, making sure that you're still getting the tech side across, but also making the user excited and engaged and want to actively be on the platform. So that would be my little suggestion right there, is just making it fun and going into it with excitement, because your energy feeds off to the user and who you're talking to.
Yeah, I definitely have seen people present and or train when they were excited and knew the content versus, I won't say not excited, but little less than enthused and new to the content, and the vibe comes off very different. And I feel like sometimes people learn more from your vibe than the words that you're saying, and that level of confidence can really pay off.
It does. Exactly.
What is one thing? So let's go in the opposite direction. What is one thing that people overestimate about themselves when starting a career in technology or learning about AI or Salesforce?
That is a great question. I think soft skills. I think soft skills. One of the things that I challenged with when I was challenged with when I was a business analyst in my first position was coming in and needing to understand different business processes. When I started my first business analyst position, I was working with 5 to 6 clients, and it ranged from sales, service, marketing, and Pardot. And that's just the clouds. And then every business did something different. One was healthcare. A lot of them were hospitals, and one was a marketing agency. I mean, there were so many different things that I was doing at once, where despite me learning, because you're learning the tech, you're also learning about the business. And I felt so confident on the tech, and it's a lot to juggle. But when I went into the business, they would kind of run through like, this is our business process. What could we do to improve it? And it's like, wait, I thought I got this. I thought I went through the website and understood things. I thought I had these sessions with them where I was breaking down things to understand their business better. But sometimes you're going to have to figure out how to ask the same question in different ways. And you're going to have to be okay with saying like, hey, I didn't get this and what you were saying it. Can you take some time to explain to me a little bit more in detail? And I think those are some of the challenges that people face because we're not in the business that our clients do all the time. We don't know exactly what goes on, but we know what to do for them. But we also need to balance configuring and advising with understanding their business. And I think learning to be okay to ask questions, to follow up with clients, and really show them that you're fully invested, they'll hear you. And I think at the end of the day, clients want to know that you have their back, and being able to show that, they'll work with you. So that was a challenging part for me. Some things I've seen from my coworkers as well, and being able to kind of talk through it.
I could totally see that. Sorry, I was lost in thought. I was thinking of something else, and I was like, wait a minute, silence. Let's talk. The thing I was thinking through, so overestimate that. Another question that I've always seen, I think actually we got this in the military office hours, about to say happy hour again. Military happy hour office hours that we got was, social presence. And I've, I think too unfairly, there's often times where people put together panels, and to be fair, like Jennifer Lee was on this panel, and Warren, myself, even though, I guess when you've had a social profile since dirt was invented, you've got a social presence.
Uh-huh.
But I think too fairly, people are often put up on a pedestal of, look at all these people and they have these huge social presence, and people getting started in tech or admins even in tech are like, oh, well, I have to do all that. Yeah. What do you advise maybe people that are switching careers, because that can be a starting brand new, or people just getting into tech, as kind of like, what is the minimum thing that you should do to make sure you have a solid kind of internet profile, I'll call it?
Yeah. And I think that's a fantastic question. And especially working with a lot of people who start their tech careers, like Salesforce careers, that is one of the number one questions that I would say, like in the top 5 questions that people ask is, everybody's doing so much, like they're personal branding, they're attending networking, they're learning. And it's so much, especially if you have a family, if you have, you're working 2 jobs, like whatever the case may be, there is the idea that people have to do a lot. And I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed, especially with like new certs coming out and the demand for needing to do A, B, C, and D. The biggest thing that when I hear people say this, and I fall like guilty to this as well, is just taking a step back. And I've really needed to, guide myself and others and take this advice. It's just about painting a picture. Like to our point, we were talking about Canva earlier, right? Yep. But Canva's fantastic for having a vision board. And I think that's something that from watching other YouTubers in tech, I've seen people be really successful with, is when they create a vision board of where they see themselves, let's say in 2 years. I don't want to jump to 5 or 10, but just keeping your goal small and achievable. I think that's number 1 step. But number 2, like creating that vision board of where you see yourself and what certs are going to help you get to where you need to go. I think that's a great starting point because it helps you keep aligned. It helps you keep in your lane of where you want to go. And then if you do have like a new cert that comes out, then you're able to figure out, okay, I want to do this. I'm excited to do it. I always tell people to act on the excitement. If you have it in you and it doesn't take you away from your ultimate goal, go for it, because then you're going to start thinking about it. But kind of keep yourself aligned, and then it allows you for more opportunity to be like, oh, this might be good for my career, I can put it in. Or this may not be good for my career, so I'm not going to put it in. It really helps you see clear. And I'm actually going to be setting up my 2025 vision board and going to be doing it as a YouTube video just to be able to help people. Yeah, I think just having that vision board is really helpful.
That's like the perfect segue into exactly the question I had, which was what is one big thing you hope to accomplish next year?
Yeah, I actually took on a new position as a senior business analyst. It's a kind of a multi-role QA lead and product owner. But I have my own team. It's of two gentlemen, and both of them got promoted this year. So I found that I really like leading teams. I'm also kind of working as the head of the development team that we have. I led a QA specialist, not a QA. I led a UX designer this year, and I really fell in love with building up people. And I would love to be able to continue that. I just got a new project where I'll be more of the functional lead, leading all of the teams. So while I think it's going to be a challenge, I would love to be able to learn more of how to lead efficiently, and be able to get my people promoted, teach others how to be a good leader. Managers make a huge difference in your career, whether you're supported, listened to, and I want to be that for people. So that's my goal, is as I come into the new project, come the new year, and lead this huge team. I'm excited and all types of nervous for it, but the goal is just to be somebody that they can look back in 10 years and hopefully when they get into a manager position, be like, I want to lead like her, because I lead like other leaders that have made an impact in my life.
I think that's a very cool goal. Thanks for sharing it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Megan, appreciate you coming on the pod and breaking out of your YouTube videos. So, and trying a new medium. Maybe that was on your vision board for 2024.
It really was. So thank you.
If not, you can always say it is. Nobody can check it. It's like what I always tell people when you give a speech. Nobody knows your script.
It's okay. We can go for the happy hour now.
Right, exactly. But no, thanks for coming on the podcast and kind of giving us that advice and helping us share things together. And I'll be sure to link to your YouTube page. That way people can check it out, because you do a nice mix of shorts and videos and real life and Salesforce. And it feels very, very honest and attainable, So I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. That's the goal. And thank you so much for having me on.
Well, that was a fantastic conversation we had. I hope you found it helpful. If so, be sure to share it with somebody who might benefit from Megan's insights. If you're on Apple Podcasts, just tap the 3 dots to share it or spread the word on social. And don't forget, admin.salesforce.com is your one-stop shop for all the resources, including a full transcript of this episode. Now, be sure to join us in the Admin Trailblazers group to keep the conversation going. Don't worry. Again, you'll find those links in the show notes. So until next week, we'll see you in the cloud.